From Boxland Media Studios in beautiful Worthington, Ohio, this is Amplify Worthington with your hosts, Matt Lofy and David McCorkle.
Hello and welcome to Amplify Worthington, your podcast on all things business and economic development for Greater Worthington. My name is Matt Lofy. I'm the Executive Director of the Worthington Area Chamber, and next to me is Mr. David McCorkle, our Assistant City Manager and Economic Development Director of the City of Worthington. We're on our first episode. How are you feeling?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
I've never done this before, so I'm excited. We'll see how it goes.
I'm excited for the podcast because I've done podcasting. I listen to podcasts, but it's always without the video. So I've been worried about everything of how is it going to look on camera and how often am I going to scrunch my glasses?
Well, and didn't you mention that you've been growing your beard out for this potentially?
Yes, and then I was like, which side of the beard's going to look better on camera? And then I was just like, the heck with it.
Well, this is me growing it out, so.
I love it. I love it. Well, our focus on this podcast is to ensure that we start talking about business and economic development in a creative platform that meets our residents and business leaders on their time.
That's right. So when we were talking about this, because we have a lot to say, and we figured this would be a good opportunity to say those things, we were talking about whether or not we wanted this to have an economic development focus, a business focus, should it be on the City of Worthington? And what we've decided on is this podcast will focus on Greater Worthington. So we don't just want Worthington folks listening to this, and we're happy to have you, but we do want a more regional focus. We want to understand some of the trends that are going on in the region, some of the regional impacts on businesses and economic development. So we will take a look at a wide range of things throughout this podcast, but we had a lot to say, and we figured what better medium to say those things than a podcast.
And with us partnering as the city and the chamber working together, we're able to talk to businesses within the city and within our school district and region, but also allows us to just get a little bit deeper with business leaders, with what's going on with the city, as well as just finding ways for us to continue to grow Worthington as a place to live, work, and do business in.
Yep.
So I'm excited for this.
That's right. I'm excited too.
Got to get used to the camera a little bit.
Yeah, you got any tips?
Sitting TV close to you? No, man.
You do a podcast. So you have tips, right?
I do a podcast, but it's without video because we have, as Sean and I say, faces for podcasting and not behind the camera. So this is all new for me. But we're sitting TV close, and I'm excited to get our first episode going.
Me too. All right, great. So with us today, let's go right into the episode. So we have Matt Davis from COhatch. Matt is, I've known Matt for several years now. Worthington, and we'll get into it shortly, but Worthington was the first location for COhatch. But Matt, you are the founder and CEO, and what else does your business card say? Tell us about you.
Well, first off, well done, guys, for the first time. It's fun watching you squirm a little bit, and let me just say that for the public, you both need raises now. So
right.
I think that should be the first agenda item for next time is how you guys get a raise for doing this. But yeah, overall, my business card originally was founder and CEO, and then really now it says CEO and community orchestrator. And people kind of look at me funny with that sometimes, but I really think that the primary role of ever since I created COhatch was to help orchestrate and put people in the best position to succeed and collide with each other and I think that's one of the keys of any good, healthy business or ecosystem growing is just allowing other people to be better than what they currently are today.
That's awesome. And so I briefly mentioned it, teasing that you may have gotten your start in Worthington. Tell us a little bit about the start of COhatch, what it is that makes you tick, and what COhatch is.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. Like in reality, in 2015, I was high up VP of supply chain operations. My whole background's been operational and MBA, Six Sigma Black Belt, executive, all those type of things. And like a whole lot of people, I went through phases of my career where I loved my job and I also hated it. And I hate going every day and I didn't have a whole lot of purpose with it. So around 2008, me and a buddy started doing some things on the side, like so many people that I know today. Everyone has a side hustle. And we started really developing, we bought the franchise rights to Snap Fitness and we started doing 8 to 10 locations and we built them all over town. And we kind of did it in a unique way where we didn't go to strip centers. We didn't go where they usually wanted to go. We went in kind of the heart of neighborhoods and communities like Grandview on 3rd Avenue and things like that, and fell in love with kind of cutting my teeth on negotiating leases, real estate development, community development. And towards the end of that, I was still working, and I developed a Snap Fitness for someone else in Worthington. And I distinctly remember I have an all-employee presentation next week, which has 90 people now in
That's
6
amazing.
years. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I go back and I show this picture is January, I think 16th of 2015. And I was touring it out front with Elizabeth Buckenroth and her, I'm saying that right, the Zettler family, and looking at a different space. It used to be the Zettler hardware store, right? And they was walking through, and I'm like, man, it's a cool building. And I always loved Worthington because it's very Norman Rockwell-ish, picturesque, great families, great culture, and just it's from a beauty standpoint and peace, as well as just kind of the ideal place to be. I'm always attracted to it. I originally tried to live there when I moved here a while back, but I'm a kind of bigger dude, and I only found really small houses with small doorways at the time, and I couldn't find anything, so I did the new construction thing in Powell. But overall, when I was walking through that building, I just fell in love with the architecture and the history of it. I couldn't believe that it was available, and I said, "What's upstairs?" Because it was kind of too expensive for us at the time. I said, and they looked at me and said it was unrentable space. I go, "What? There's no such thing." And so I begged them to take me upstairs, and I kept saying no. And I walked upstairs, and it was literally full of trash. You need to walk over things. And when you peeled back all the trash, there were these old cool I-beams and this little walkway that walked across. And I'm like, I stumbled into the first COhatch location, and it had like 15-foot ceilings on a second floor. And there's a stage there. And I'm like, this is super weird. Like 100-year-old buildings don't have 15-foot ceilings and a stage. I'm like, what the heck's going on here, right? And I found out it was the community hall theater back in the day.
Yeah.
And all these other things. I'm just fascinated with the history. And I always wanted to go out on my own and create my own company and be an entrepreneur. But just like so many people, I never really had the cojones to do it. And had two or three kids. Is cojones the bad word? Is this the
No. That's
thing?
fine.
That's legit. It's cojones. All right, so
it's good enough for
don't
this.
want to break your rules. But it never really had the guts to do it. That's better, guts.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
all right,
We're rolling with it.
all right, cool. So never really had the guts to do it. And like anybody, I had three kids and a job and the healthy fear of providing for a family and stuff like that. My wife didn't work the time, she stayed with the kids, but I always had this dream, and the company was going to be called Whiteboard, and it was literally me in an office with a whiteboard. That was the business plan. That was how it started. Very original, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm walking through that space,
That's your next company.
yeah, I mean, luckily I don't have to do that. when I
Trademark
go.
pending.
Yeah. But around the same time, a really good friend from church, Elizabeth Limes, and her fiance at the time were from Worthington, and we were doing. He went out on his own and created his own creative design agency called Brand Stamp. He was a creative director for WD and a couple other large firms. And I remember him complaining about having to work at the Worthington Library and getting kicked out. Not that the Worthington Library is not a great place to work at, but every day, all day with young kids and working from home. And he's like, I really need a good place to work. And really, COhatch started right there with some of my friends, and it was a handshake deal that said, well, I'll build it, you design it, and you get free rent forever. And that was the start of COhatch in Worthington.
I specifically remember that space, and what you guys have done with that space is simply incredible. But it was a historic space for us, and so to bring back the life, I mean, I remember the wood floors, being brought back. It's just such a cool space. All right, so that's your history in Worthington.
There's also one little story that I don't think I've ever told before, is that there's a few things that enable you to have a successful business. There's always these things that have to happen to stack up the right way. You have the best business plan, you have the best ideas ever, but things have to work themselves out the right way, right? So I remember pleading and bringing the Zettler family in, along with, the first location, I never even talked to anyone in Worthington, to be honest with you.
It's true.
Yeah.
We didn't connect until the library location.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the Zettler family, I said, hey, this is going to be a tough haul for us. Do you believe in what we're going to try to create? And it was called Hatch Local at the time. And it was much more of an incubator space. Traditional, a lot of people start with co-working. And I told them we're going to really focus on giving almost everything away and helping nonprofits. And they really fell in love with the mission, and it gave us a very low rent deal that ramped up over 5 years, which enabled it. So they get a significant amount of credit for enabling us to start
Oh,
something.
that's great.
And to this day, I got to work with them and kind of thank them for what they did.
Is that how you start with all your locations, having in their name that you pay homage to historical buildings or parts of the community where you set up your new COhatch buildings?
Yeah, we try really hard to do that, and we strayed a little bit from that from outside of Columbus, but all of our Columbus locations we really try to honor, and we're super original. Like the used to be a hardware store, so we call it COhatch the hardware store. So this isn't like our big creative gene like the Westerville ones, the Armory. It used to be an Armory building. Sometimes you have to get playful with them, but I think one of the things that make us really really unique is that we develop custom things, custom properties that are very unique that very few people could figure out how to do. And then we spent the attention to detail that we honor that building, that community with, far exceeds what other people do. You walk into a lot of co-working space, they're very sterile, very vanilla, and they stop. Like it is our mission for it to be Town Hall 2.0, which we call it. It is a modern place where people could collide and get back together and talk about not only business, but as soon as you realize that, I realized this a long time ago, that the least we have in common is what we do for a living. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We strive for the same things. We strive for joy, finding our purpose. And a lot of times it's through your kids, your family, and doing other things. And we built that into COhatch because selfishly, we wanted to live a better life and have that integration. So we did that a long time ago. And by having that philosophy, it really connected with people at a much deeper level. And that's where people have a hard time. They say, well, when they walk into COhatch, they say well, this is just different. It feels different. It's like you guys really care, and that's true because that's the reason we're doing it.
Well, and that's a question that I was going to ask you later in the episode, but there are different co-working models out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some are more successful than others. What is it that COhatch is doing or has done that separates you from some of the other models that exist?
Yeah, I get that a lot. And I really break it down. I think in January, before we open the hardware store, I pull up in our employee presentation next week this little Excel goals of kind of what we wanted it to be. And we wanted it to be, I love 4,000 to 10,000 square feet spaces originally in the heart of towns, but most co-working won't do that because they need economies of scale and really big masses. They go downtown. And I'd rather have this ability to have many locations in the suburbs to use all of them because small businesses don't just do business in Worthington. They might have an agency and they do business in Westerville and they're always trying to grow. And I really wanted it to be intimate with the community and integrated with everyone in it so they could spend all parts of their life there. Our mission statement is to strengthen communities, improve lives every single day. And the new part is equip people to be greater. And that's my favorite part of the whole thing is we are trying to design, we're not a space building company. We're not a co-working company. We're a people company, and we're trying to enable our members and the people that use our space to be greater in all parts of their lives. That means helping you with less commute to spend more time with your kids. That means going on cheaper vacations. That means helping you thrive at business. It means helping you connect with nonprofits, getting off your butt and actually doing something for the first time, right? That's what makes us significantly different. And then the other part of the co-working world, if you go on your LinkedIn profile, it's a whole bunch of brokers and people really trying to sell space and selling to landlords, whereas I think they're really off because as soon as you're a customer and you're becomes a landlord or a broker, you're playing the wrong thing. So we really focus on every single day kind of blessing and helping a member.
So you hit on a couple things that I want to follow up on. So during the pandemic, I'm sure your business was impacted just like many other businesses were impacted. And you and I have talked about this a little bit in what you saw from a individual membership perspective to a perspective of maybe more corporate partnerships. Can you talk about what you've seen both, I guess, kind of pre-pandemic, during the pandemic when everybody was batting the hatches,
Sure.
And then where you're at now and where you guys are focusing?
Yeah.
Because remote work is, it's some level of it's here, and I truly believe that it's we're going to see more hybrid work. That the answer's somewhere in the middle, and I know your model, leans right into that. But how is that reflected in individual corporate memberships?
Sure. Yeah, I think COVID was obviously unbelievably unique, and I pride myself in having 1,000 different iterations to my business plan that I could think through, and global pandemic was not on my list of things, right? So, and I distinctly remember that day, and I think it was March, where every small business owner tuning in to watching the governor tell them what they could and could not do, and the ripple effects it would have, and the pressure that it had on everything that we had. And it was probably the most. I remember taking walks in my neighborhood with almost like tears in my eyes, figuring out what I got to do, how I'm going to do it, how we're going to survive, right? Like so many people. But the thing for us is we were thriving before COVID, and we were growing, and our core demographic is always still today our core demographic, which is people love to ask me who our customer is, and I said it's the people who live in Worthington, for example. It's like you have a percentage of people who have startups, the people who have service businesses, the people that do these things, and honestly, our core, our bread and butter is a 30 to 50-year-old that have good businesses that are thriving, that really want a great place to work, walk to their work, live in their neighborhood, know their people, and that won't change. Once we hit COVID, it was unique because there were so many. It wasn't like a normal recession. It was a government-backed, fully funded PPP loan. You have to pay money, keep your employees done. And what we found is we never shut down, actually, because we were actually part of the critical service, I forget what they called it at the time, where we had to stay open because we had lawyers, we had people using our space. So we did stop staffing things. We let our people use their offices, and people just kept going every single day because they had their own individual office, and we had to. So it helped us. We actually maintained fairly well through the pandemic. Then as it started to come back, which took it significantly longer than I thought it would, all those people came back. Plus now we're seeing like the only solution is probably a hybrid solution, and it might be minimizing current space. But I'm a big fan of human nature. I think humans have the best short-term memory loss ever. They could say one thing like, no one's going back to work ever. We're not doing this. We're not doing, and then it's like, oh yeah, what was that? What happened 2 years ago? Like they're really good at forgetting what they want to forget about. So you're starting to see it now. Disney came out today, and they're going to mandate employees come back 4 days a week, right? Tesla and other people are going to mandate people coming back. I think now I do think that the talent pool is going to dictate what they want, where they want to work, and you just can't give the best people freedom and then be like, I'm taking that freedom away. Hence hybrid. I think really strong tech companies with great culture could do whatever they want, especially when they force a recession, they start laying people off. The power goes back to the big companies once you have a recession and layoffs. That's what the government wants to force, actually. That's what they're trying to force. So you see it, but I do think that people have woken up to the world of like looking for other options. I don't need to sign a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease. I could take, instead of 10,000 square feet, I could take 4. I could use COhatch, and we're trying to be the only solution for people, because if you have 50 employees, the chances are that some live in Worthington, some live in Powell, some live in Westerville. Then you want to work close to home, but then bring them back together. So we really fit that model really well, and that's why we're growing even faster.
So have you seen more corporate memberships, more larger employers around the region reaching out to you? This key fob gets me into all 10 of your locations.
Yeah. I've seen multiple variations of it, from the subsidy to go pick your own place to the we're going to buy you a membership to the we launched corporate suites in our Polaris location, where we actually have companies that have like a headquarters for 30 people, but then they use our meeting room. They don't need to have meeting rooms anymore and pay for them because they have 50 of them around Columbus. They just use that. So you pay a little bit of a premium for the square footage. That's why I never do anything by square footage, but we give you 90,000 square feet all over to use, and we take care of all your headaches so you could focus on your employees and what you do for a living, not the space.
And one of the things that I continue to hear in my day job is, yes, the flexibility that you offer is important, and that's why a lot of people choose that model, but also the amenities that you offer. So a major thing for us here in Worthington is we are trying to do better. I think we do a good job, but we're trying to do better in helping employers of all sizes attract and retain employees by offering nearby amenities. Sure. I know that fits right into the COhatch model.
Yeah. I mean, I think cities are doing a good job. Everyone's thinking about it from a different angle. At the end of the day, you want your citizens to thrive and you want them to interact with a lifestyle they want, and you're providing amenities to do that, right? Because it's important to have a healthy ecosystem in your town. For us, the unique, that's the reason I own probably never retire or never sell COhatch, is because it's this beautiful, like, I love development, I love building, and I love watching new things like everyone at HGTV does, like turning something ugly into something new. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. But I also, there's no end to it for us. So I could create amenities for, we bought a beach house in Florida for our members to use, and selfishly I get to use too, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful model. But I could also then think that right now we just hired an entrepreneur in residence, JD Davids is his name. And his sole job is to help our startups in our ecosystem, who some need a lot of help and some just need access. They have a great concept, get to that next level. To me, that's an amenity. If you know that you can go to any COhatch and I can introduce you to the city officials of Worthington, we also help train you. We can also introduce you we're launching a digital platform for startups. We're going to publicize them, pull up one app and see every startup in Columbus. And by the way, here's a list of 200 investors that are on a portal that have a net worth of over $1 billion. And all you have to do is hit a button to meet them. Like, I'm trying to build you stuff that I always wanted as a startup, right? Or as an entrepreneur or a father, right? And that's the joy I get to do, is I get to build it for me, but also give it to other people to share and use.
And that was sorry. That was
you
one of my.
Talk a lot. You don't let him talk.
He can talk next.
This is episode 1.
He can talk. We'll work on it for future episodes.
How's your wife put up with you?
She doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It's getting good now.
Yeah. I knew use your 4 words.
I knew you were a poor choice for the first episode. One of my favorite things for that we partnered on with our first location, so COhatch in Worthington, was. I am a team of one with the City of Worthington, and so on the economic development side, it's very difficult sometimes to have a true pulse of like the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so one of the things that we partnered with COhatch on is, as part of our agreement for the library location, they actually provide us with a quarterly report that has a narrative in it about their membership, who's doing well, who's struggling, are there opportunities for the city to get more involved. That it's almost like an extension of our economic development efforts, and COhatch has been a great partner on that. All right, now you can.
That's great. Yeah. Well, now my question is going to fail because I wanted to ask you. You were talking about resources for if you're starting your business, if you're on your own, or even as a father. Is it true that you have a bouncy house?
Yeah.
So if you're a member of COhatch, you can also like rent a bouncy house.
You could take it for free. Yes. So that's part of we bought it. It's part of the amenities. It's very simple. We need things because it's good for us to promote our business and to be part of the Worthington farmers market, right? It's good to attract people over and jump, but it sits there 97% of the time unused. And I look at everything like they're my friend, like Andreas, who does our AV and everything through Hanson. I love his family. I got to meet his kids. It's and he said they're having a bounce house. I'm like, dude, just take this. Or sorry, they're having a birthday party. I'm like, dude, just take this. I genuinely want him to experience joy doing that. And that's how I look at everything, right? So some people are a pain in the butt, but most people I want to help. So, but that's kind of why the bounce house exists. That's why we built Moby. It's our mobile community center. It's a 1962 Airstream in Gracie. It's a 1990 old ice cream truck, because we allow our nonprofits. We have over 500 nonprofits on scholarship now.
That's incredible, by the way.
That's great.
Let them take it. So it's like a tool. I use it for what we use it for. But again, why it doesn't do me any good to let it sit there in a warehouse doing nothing. So let other people use it for promoting their company, for taking school supplies everywhere. It's a big magnet for them to tell people a story. Right?
And so you started with one location here. Now you have 2 locations in Worthington. Now, how many to date in January of 2023 locations do you have in how many states?
We have 21 locations open, 10 to 12 under construction. I lose track. And another 15 we should be at, I think within the 2 years, we'll be at about 47, 48 locations.
Across how many states?
Oh, so we have 7. So Indy, Cincy, I don't look at states, I look at markets. It's 4 states right now, 5 states. So we have Indy, Cincy, Cleveland, Tampa, Columbus, Pittsburgh opens next month, and then we're we announced Charlotte, Atlanta, Raleigh, Orlando, Nashville, and then that's coming up.
I specifically remember seeing the article that said, we want 100 locations in 10 years, and I just laughed. I was like, I trust Matt and his team, but that's ambitious. It sounds like you're halfway there.
Yeah, I mean, well,
on your way.
We're on our way. I get like the biggest challenge for anybody right now simply is the cost to build, inflation, all those things. We're not immune to those things. So we could be, luckily we're our own development company. We do it ourselves. So like I'm paying someone to develop. So we have a little bit of advantage there, but obviously we're hoping to see that simmer down a smidge so we can keep growing. But the other thing, like, it's unannounced yet. So like I'm really,
you can announce it right here if you want.
We've got like a 2-week lag here.
First episode.
In January, again, my Excel sheet in January 2015. So I tell people all the time, my goal was to build one and to have a better life for me and my family. But I don't ever do anything like that. If you know anything about me, I have this vision for what I want to accomplish, and I've been happy with one. I've been happy with two, right? And I still to this day say I'd rather have 4,000 locations that make $1 than 2 locations that make $1 billion, right? So with what we were trying to do with building, I completely lost my train of thought. I've never done that before, Dave.
You've never lost your train of thought?
No. I'm just, so what was I talking about?
You were talking about your growth. You were going to announce like this top secret magic thing exclusively on this podcast.
You're trying to make me drink beer this morning. It's not.
Nobody knows what time it is on this podcast.
So the Excel spreadsheet I have the vision was to have 4,000 locations by the time I gave it up, right? That was my vision, and it's going to be a ton of small communities, 10 to 15 per market. But in order for us to get there, we can only develop so quickly. What I'm looking at now is that we have our own technology that we're starting to develop, and we have one of the sections of co-working I love the most is the mom and pop co-working operator like me, right? I started it for all the right reasons. I cared about people. I wanted to do it, and not necessarily these big like Serendipity Labs or Venture X or broker big ones. So we found several operators that got their butt kicked through the pandemic who really, I had a blessing that I had five business partners that are super skilled in construction, sales, branding design, everything. And we had 20 some years of experience as executives doing stuff, knew how to raise money, knew how to do other advantages that other people don't have. So we're toying with the idea of like, I get asked at least 10 times a month, if not more, hey, I'd love to have it in Worcester. Can COhatch come to, it was Buffalo, New York yesterday. It was all these towns. And I'm like, there's some people like, hey, can you help me? Can I integrate with your space? So one of the things we're considering is I truly believe in integrated community is I'm doing this all for impact. How do we have more nonprofits in our system? How do we help cities more? Potentially allowing other smaller mom and pops that fit our values to be part of what we're doing in some way that would help us expand quicker and connect more and more communities.
That's a good segue. I was going to ask kind of what the future of COhatch looks like. I know you and I have talked about everything from shared industrial space to new headquarters locations. You had to get that one in there.
Yeah, that was one you had to drop.
I did have to drop that. We're working on that. What's the future of COhatch look like?
I've been asked to do anything from the COhatch Hotel to maker spaces to shared arts facilities to all these different things. And I've learned a lot of cut my teeth in things that were bad decisions, good decisions. I originally had the vision of I want to have a shared space and stuff for no matter what you do, a welder or an artist. I wanted something for you. I learned quickly that probably wasn't super realistic because there's a reason that maker spaces and industrial things are where they are in kind of crappy locations and old buildings because it's difficult for people who are in that area to pay for anything, right? It's harder for us to develop what we do in those segments. I still want to build. We still have maker spaces. We're still building some things, but they're much harder to pull off than some of the other stuff we do. So what I've seen though is like my vision for, I'll start with Columbus is that, I'll take a look. We will launch technology that will help you activate you in all parts of your life. Log in, it'll ask you what the 5 things you care about. Nonprofit world is water. It could be orphans, whatever these things are. It will then match you with some of the skill things that the nonprofits in our system need So you could activate you and actually, hopefully, you could volunteer with the skill that you have and not necessarily just show up at a food pantry and give out food. Attorneys helping other people who need it. Technology that will help you find and raise money as a startup. Technology that will help you list your Airbnb rental so you could rent it to other members in our membership group, because I want to know who's renting my place. So, and I'll link all of our locations together, and we'll have digital workshops. So I could sit in Worthington, Ohio. I can do a lunch and learn on small business HR, and anyone in Tampa, Nashville, wherever could also tune in and listen to it and learn from it as well. So there's the technology piece of what we're going to do. There's the physical deployment of new locations that we're working on. And then in Columbus, what I think the holy grail of what I really want to get to is that I've been blessed enough to be able to expand my influence and kind of where we're at in Columbus, is that eventually I want to have 16 to 20 some locations. I want a physical impact center somewhere like Worthington, where imagine a place like the idea we're toying with now is how do we build if someone's homeless or on a drug addiction and they go into a new affordable housing, which is they need some sort of help, they usually walk in with nothing in it. So I could actually, our membership, we build beautiful spaces. Why can't we furnish beautiful apartments for people who are homeless, who need it? And that means we could use our partnership with the Carpenter's Son to build a table. My team could build this. Our members could volunteer dishes. So we could mobilize our membership group to focus it on solving problems in Columbus. And then we could scale that dramatically. And we have artists who will paint. We have people who will make it inspiring. So how do we use our business and our membership in the heart of everyone in it to make a very large imprint on Columbus?
You talk about inspiring, just hearing everything that you're trying to do, from technology piece to helping those that need a hand up in either starting their business or just in life in general. That's absolutely inspiring. If someone watching and listening wanted to learn more about you and COhatch and the plans that you talked about, where could they find that information?
So, I mean, that's standard ways. I think you could find us digitally all over the place, but I tell people you don't really truly get it and then what we're trying to do until you walk in one of our buildings. So I would encourage people as they're walking through Worthington, they said, I've never been in there, pop on up. We're open 8 to 5, free coffee, hang out, get to know what we do. Walk in, talk to the people that work for us, because we really try to hire great people with big hearts who really can explain things and why we're doing what we are. So number one is always just, you're always welcome, walk in. 2, you could just go to our website and our social media, and you'll see all kinds of videos and things about it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being our first guest, first episode. How do you feel?
No, good enough. We'll have to edit some stuff. No, Matt. No, I'm just kidding. So I truly appreciate you being our first guest. You and I have had a friendship for a while, as well as a professional relationship, and we wish you nothing but the best, and COhatch nothing but the best. Thanks so much for being part of this.
Well, thank you guys very much. And last thing is that there's no question we couldn't have done this without you. And I think the amount of support the city gave us to do it, not only our second location, but be a reference and to other cities and towns, helped us get from 2 to 5 really quickly. And small businesses working in Worthington, and the amount of time you guys spend with them and get to know them is kind of off the charts. So thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. We wouldn't have vouched for you if we didn't believe in you. So, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, for listening to this episode. Please help us amplify the voice of business here in Greater Worthington by subscribing to this podcast or dropping us a line at amplifyworthington@gmail.com. Stay up to date on all things Worthington by following the city across social media platforms, as well as the Worthington Area Chamber. And then first Thursday of every month, we have coffee and conversations for our business owners and members of the chamber to hear updates from Lee Brown and David McCorkle. And most importantly, thank you for listening. And together, let's help amplify Worthington.
Boxland Media. Think big.